The story begins with Rick Carver, a real estate broker being questioned by the police at a crime scene. He was the last person to see Mr. Caldwell, the man who had just taken his own life with a gun. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Rick remains unfazed, casually answering business calls while speaking to the officers.
Mr. Carver?
Yeah, I'll be with you in a second.
Shortly after being done on his phone, he explains that as soon as Mr. Caldwell saw him, he went inside his house and shot himself. While this might seem suspicious, it is not entirely unexpected. Rick works with banks to carry out home foreclosures, and Mr. Caldwell was one of the many homeowners about to lose his house. Rather than facing eviction, he made the tragic decision to end his life.
What official statement is going to encapsulate the tragic absurdity of this up situation?
Rick, however, shows no emotion while recounting what happened, making it clear that he is a cold and ruthless man. We then meet Dennis Nash, a hard-working construction worker and a single father who is struggling to make ends meet. He is drowning in financial problems and owes the bank around $80,000. His home is at risk of foreclosure and his family is on the verge of being evicted. Desperate to save his house, Dennis goes to court with his son Connor, hoping to negotiate with the bank's representatives. However, the judge only grants him a 30-day appeal period.
The bank can have a buyer in place within 30 days.
Did you in fact miss 3 payments?
Dennis pleads and nearly begs for more time, but his words fall on deaf ears. A police officer escorts him out of the courtroom, leaving him feeling frustrated and defeated. As he heads home, disappointment weighs heavily on him, but he does his best to reassure Connor, promising that they will not lose their home.
I'm not gonna lose the home, but...
How do you know?
Despite his words, Dennis is extremely worried. That night, he frantically searches for a job that can provide enough money to support his family. He scours job listings, makes countless phone calls, and reaches out to everyone he knows, but nothing comes up. Each rejection only adds to his stress and desperation. At this point, Dennis is so broke, he'd probably take a side gig selling pictures of Spider-Man to J. Jonah Jameson. The next day, the situation takes a devastating turn.
Okay.
All right. Afternoon, boss.
A group of sheriffs accompanied by Rick Carver arrives at Dennis's home. They inform him that the bank has officially taken ownership of the property and he and his family must leave immediately. Dennis protests, reminding them that the judge granted him 30 days. However, Rick presents a signed court order that overrides the appeal, making it clear that they have no choice but to leave.
But the time has come. You have to leave the property.
He also reveals that the bank had initially offered them $3,500 as a cash-for-key settlement, which would have allowed them to leave voluntarily. Since they declined the offer, they now have no time to prepare. Dennis and his mother Lynn refuse to leave, leading to a tense confrontation with the police. The officers warn that if they do not cooperate, they will be arrested. Lynn, angry and distraught, insists that the officers are trespassing, but one of them coldly tells her that she is the one trespassing since the house now belongs to the bank.
This isn't your home, son.
Mr. Carver?
Excuse me?
With no other option, Dennis and his mother start packing their belongings. They desperately try to remove everything important before being forced out. Shortly after, Connor returns from school and is devastated to see his family being evicted. He tries to go to his room, but Dennis stops him, explaining that they can no longer stay there.
I just want to go to my room, please.
I can't go to your room right now.
Heartbroken and powerless, Connor watches as their home is taken away from them. Saying their final goodbyes to their neighbors, Dennis and his family move into a rundown motel.
Do you plan on staying for a while?
No, a couple nights. Just a couple nights.
That night, Dennis makes dozens of phone calls, desperately trying to find work. He even offers to do plumbing jobs, but no one is willing to hire him.
All right, lower level stuff, anything going?
That night, Lynn suggests moving to Tampa to live with Dennis's uncle, but Dennis refuses. He doesn't want to uproot Connor from his school and friends. Determined to turn things around, he wakes up the next day ready to find any job he can. Later, Dennis goes and gets into a heated argument with a group of movers, accusing them of stealing his construction tools.
Tools again.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You don't have a house, right?
As tensions rise, Rick Carver unexpectedly arrives, asking what the commotion is about. When Dennis explains, Rick gets a phone call about another issue and prepares to leave.
You gotta be kidding me.
But before he goes, he turns to Dennis and asks if he's looking for work. Remembering that Dennis mentioned having experience in construction, Rick offers him a small job for $50. Desperate for money, Dennis quickly agrees and follows Rick in his truck. They arrive at a foreclosed home that has been severely damaged by sewage flooding. The stench is unbearable, and most of the workers refuse to clean it. Seeing an opportunity, Dennis negotiates with Rick, saying he will do the job for $250. Rick agrees. Dennis steps inside, only to realize the mess is far worse than he expected. The sticky, foul-smelling sludge makes him gag, and he rushes outside to vomit. The other workers laugh at him, but Dennis doesn't give up. Instead, he offers them drinks and a fair wage to help him clean the mess. Reluctantly, they agree to join him. Impressed by Dennis's determination, Rick starts to see potential in him.
All right, let's do it. Let's get this shit done.
After completing the job, Dennis went to the motel and showed them the money he made. Lynn is thankful as things can be hopeful, and they spend that day happy. The next day, he calls Dennis to his luxurious mansion to fix an air conditioning unit. Dennis gets a glimpse of Rick's extravagant lifestyle, his huge house, fancy cars, and beautiful wife. However, the constant phone calls filled with angry voices suggest that Rick has made many enemies. After Dennis finishes the repair, Rick takes him for a drive and unexpectedly offers him a well-paying job.
You know what I am? I'm a man who owns a hell of a lot of properties.
Without asking for details, Dennis immediately accepts, knowing he needs money to support his family. As they drive through town, they spot a house illegally siphoning electricity and water from a neighboring property. Realizing that the house belongs to the bank, Rick turns the car around to investigate. He knocks on the door and confronts the occupant, Frank Green, ordering him to remove the illegal utilities immediately.
So you're not just stealing from me, you're stealing from the United States government.
Frank, though embarrassed, complies to Rick's firm stand. While removing the extension cords, he confides in Dennis that their sons go to the same school and that he has seen him at sports events. He also shares that he lost his job 2 years ago and has been drowning in mortgage debt ever since. Before leaving, Frank apologizes, but Rick coldly warns him never to do it again or face serious consequences.
Next visit's gonna be from the sheriff's department.
Later, Rick and Dennis arrive at an upscale home where Rick instructs Dennis to remove high-end kitchen cabinets and furnishings so they can be installed in another property. After completing the task, Rick hands Dennis $3,250 and formally invites him to join his company, Rick Carver Realty.
Well, you done honest work your whole life building homes. What'd that get you but me knocking at you?
Although Dennis is hesitant, he knows he has no other choice. Before pocketing the check, he asks Rick if he can use the money to get his house back. Rick, however, dismisses the idea, saying there will be time for that later. As weeks pass, Dennis becomes more involved in Rick's shady business. He starts posting foreclosure notices, evicting families, and even stealing valuable appliances from abandoned homes. Meanwhile, he takes pictures of items such as air conditioning units and pool pumps to report them as missing, allowing Rick to make fraudulent claims and collect money from the government.
What you doing, son?
I'm going by home with a pool if the pool don't work.
The work takes a toll on him. He often encounters displaced homeowners who are just as desperate as he once was. Some of them threaten him while others break down in tears. Although he sympathizes with them, he convinces himself that he has no other choice. He is out there evicting people and flipping houses because, let's be honest, Spider-Man doesn't come with a pension plan and swinging through New York doesn't pay the bills. His own family's survival depends on the money he earns from his job. At night, Dennis returns to the motel and tries to act normal around his mother and son.
What do you have in there?
A steak.
What?
He hides the truth from them, pretending that everything is fine. However, guilt eats away at him at night, and he struggles with sleeping with his conscience. One day, Rick takes inventory of the stolen appliances they have collected. He explains to Dennis that the government will reimburse him for the cost of replacing them, allowing them to make easy money. He also introduces Dennis to a new scheme, placing fake tenants in foreclosed homes to collect additional cash-for-keys settlements from banks.
Who pays the most out in cash for keys?
Dennis realizes he is being pulled deeper into a world of corruption, but by now, he is in too deep to walk away. Days later, Rick hands Dennis a check for $7,200, his share of their illegal earnings, but Dennis refuses the money. Instead, he asks Rick to help him get his home back. Without hesitation, Rick agrees to buy the house with his own money, but warns Dennis that he will still owe him $155,000. Excited about getting his home back, Dennis thanks Rick. However, something shifts in his mind. He straps a gun to his ankle just in case. Rick gave him the gun for protection. Now, Dennis sees everything differently and is determined to play the rigged game of people like Rick. Shortly, Rick takes Dennis to witness an eviction. A couple with young children, Mr. and Mrs. Tanner, are being forced out of their home. At first, Dennis remains detached, calmly informing them that they must leave, whether willingly or by force.
I hate to be here doing this, but I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the property.
It's clear that Dennis is not the kind of guy for such brutality, but what else can he do other than trying to fill his own cup? Soon, when the police barge in, repeating the same harsh words they once said to Dennis and his mother, something in him cracks.
No, sir. You and your wife are trespassing. This is property of the bank now. Okay,
He starts to feel guilty, however, he stands by and watches as the eviction unfolds to these innocent people. Despite the couple's desperate pleas, Dennis and the police push them out of their home. The experience leaves Dennis shaken. The couple refuses his offer to help, calling him disgusting due to his brutality. You know it's bad when you go from, I just need a job to, I'm literally the villain in someone else's life story. Seeing the pain he has caused, Dennis is overwhelmed and he even sheds tears. Later, Dennis surprises his family by taking them to their old home. He reveals that they will be moving back in within a few weeks. Connor is overjoyed, rushing into his old bedroom. Lynn, though relieved, questions how Dennis managed to make this happen.
That's because it is.
He vaguely explains that his employer bought the house and that he will pay off the debt in small amounts over time. But deep down, he struggles with the truth. But for that day, Lynn and his son were so happy, and this made him smile for a while. Soon, however, the more people he evicts, the more guilt he carries. His breaking point comes after forcing out an elderly couple who don't even understand why they have to leave. Still, despite his emotional turmoil, Dennis becomes Rick's most trusted employee.
We're submitted, signed by a judge. It's all legal. We need you to step out.
Step outside.
One day, Rick introduces Dennis to a wealthy investor named Mr. Freeman. Freeman offers them a huge deal, managing over 1,000 properties. However, there's a condition. He wants someone to spy on Ortiz, a competing broker selling foreclosed homes. Rick offers Dennis 6% of his own profit, whispering promises of power while slowly dragging Dennis to the dock side.
I'll give you 5% of my take.
10%.
6.
After some negotiation, Dennis agrees, realizing this will be more money than he has ever made in his life. Rick then assigns Dennis to investigate Ortiz. Dennis soon learns that Ortiz has already sold 15 houses to a group of investors. To sabotage him, Dennis and his coworker break into those houses and steal appliances like air conditioners and refrigerators, making it seem like Ortiz's deals are falling apart. The next day, it's Connor's birthday. Dennis joins his family at a hotel to celebrate, but his past catches up with him. A man he once evicted recognizes him and angrily confronts him. Dennis tries to ignore him, but the man refuses to back down, blaming Dennis for ruining his life.
Just calm down.
You kicked me out of my home! You ruined my f***ing life!
The tension shortly escalates into a violent fight. Lynn and Connor witness the chaos, but Dennis yells at them to go to their rooms. Frustrated and overwhelmed, he lashes out. Later, when he returns to the room, Lynn demands to know why the man recognized him and even knew his name. Dennis, now on edge, screams that he doesn't know him.
Okay.
His family is heartbroken by his reaction. Dennis realizes he has gone too far, sinking deeper into a world he no longer controls, so once again turns to Rick for guidance. Sometime later, Dennis meets with Rick and a businessman named Kahana. They discuss how the deal with Ortiz has collapsed. 6 of the 15 buyers refuse to move forward because of the missing appliances. This was all part of Rick's plan. He now offers to replace all the stolen appliances for free, but only if the buyers agree to work with him instead of Ortiz. Kahana sees the financial advantage and accepts the deal.
But the homes have to be vacated in 30 days.
Rick and Dennis smile, knowing they indeed have won the bargain. To celebrate, Rick throws a massive party at his mansion filled with music, drinks, and influential guests. Because nothing screams, "I've made it," like drinking expensive whiskey by the pool while pretending you have a soul. As the night winds down, Rick and Dennis sit by the pool. Rick enjoys their success, but Dennis, drunk, is lost in guilt. His only thought is getting his home back. Rick smirks, assuring Dennis it's just a few more weeks, but Dennis is tired of waiting.
I gotta get out of that motel now.
Rick, sensing his frustration, tells him he now has enough money to buy any house he wants, even multiple houses.
Money, buy whatever you want. There's plenty of homes in the sea.
Dennis takes Rick's words to heart. Impulsively, the next day he buys a luxurious mansion that caught his eye and surprises his family. But instead of excitement, Lynn and Connor are horrified. Lynn scolds him for evicting the previous owners just so they could move in.
This is somebody else's, and I want our house.
She sees the truth and is not going easy on her sin for destroying innocent families' lives. Disgusted, she declares that she would rather move to Tampa with her brother than live in a house built on suffering. Heartbroken, Dennis begs her to reconsider, but she refuses and starts dialing. The next morning, Rick calls Dennis into his office and hands him an important document.
This is proof of publication. Wasn't filed 2 years ago.
It's a fake legal motion against Frank Green, the struggling father who has been using electricity and water from a neighboring house to survive. If Frank wins the case, Rick's entire deal will fall apart. So Rick orders Dennis to submit the document to the court before 9:45 a.m. This means Dennis must ensure Frank loses his home, no matter the cost. Shortly, Dennis arrives at the courthouse and sees Frank with his wife and children. They look hopeful to enter the courtroom, believing they have a real chance to win. Guilt washes over Dennis and he steps into the bathroom trying to calm himself, but Rick keeps texting him, demanding to know why he hasn't delivered the paper. Finally, Rick calls, threatening him. If he doesn't file the document, he is a dead man. Dennis knows that if he hands over the document, he will destroy Frank's life. But Rick's voice echoes in his mind, pushing him forward. Under pressure, Dennis submits the fake motion. Shortly after, the court rules against Frank, seizing his home. Frank desperately pleads with the judge, crying that he has a family to take care of, but his cries go unheard. Just like that, another family is crushed under the weight of Dennis's success. Hope that mansion came with soundproof walls because that guilt is about to get loud. Later that day, Dennis returns to his new mansion, the place he now calls home, only to find it completely empty. Lynn and Connor are gone. They have left for Tampa. The realization hits him hard. Overwhelmed with sorrow, he turns to alcohol, drinking until he loses consciousness and collapses on the floor. The next morning, he is startled awake by a phone call from Rick. Rick is already at his door telling him to hurry up. It's time for Frank Green's eviction. Dennis, feeling empty and broken, follows Rick to the scene. But when they arrive, they find police officers already there talking to the neighbors. Something is wrong.
Well, go find out. I got 2 more evictions today.
The officers inform Rick and Dennis that Frank has been acting strangely. Since yesterday, his behavior has become more unstable, scaring his wife and children. The police were called for a domestic disturbance, and now they believe Frank is armed and dangerous. Suddenly, Frank starts shouting at the officers, demanding that they leave. He insists that this is his home and that they are the ones trespassing.
Put the gun down! Put the gun down!
The tension rises as the police order Frank to drop his weapon. Moments later, he steps outside, gripping a gun tightly. His voice shakes with anger as he shouts about the injustice of the court system. He claims his house was taken illegally, that the system is designed to crush people like him. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And that's what happened with Frank.
He looked at the canceled checks to prove bank payment. Fact.
Watching this unfold, Dennis breaks down. He knows exactly why Frank is in this situation. It all started because of him. A wave of guilt washes over him, but deep down, he blames Rick for pushing him into this mess. This is the moment Dennis officially realizes he's not the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man anymore. He's the guy throwing people out of neighborhoods. Still, it's too late now. He has already gone too far.
No proof of publication filed. Fact.
Chaos erupts when Frank suddenly fires at the police. The officers quickly take cover, their weapons drawn, ready to fire back. Dennis, hiding behind a police car, makes a sudden desperate decision. He steps out into the open and calls out to Frank. His voice is unsteady as he admits the truth. He was the one who forged a legal document at the court hearing. He is the reason Frank lost his house, and it wasn't fair.
I cheated you.
Well, you can change the past, but you can learn from it, right? Frank, shocked by the confession, lowers his gun slightly. His anger shifts to disbelief. Taking advantage of the moment, the police urge Frank to surrender, telling him that his case can be reopened and that he still has a chance to get his home back. After a brief hesitation, Frank finally steps forward, allowing the officers to take him into custody.
Stop! Turn around, face the home.
Meanwhile, his wife and children who had been inside the house are safely escorted out. As the situation settles, Dennis is pulled aside for questioning. When the officers ask why he is there, he admits that he came to evict Frank Green. Then, in an unexpected turn, he decides to do the right thing. He tells the police everything, giving them Rick's name and the details of the corrupt company he works for. Rick, realizing that Dennis has betrayed him, tries to stay calm, but the fury in his eyes is clear. The police are now after him, and this time he might not be able to escape. Meanwhile, Dennis sits inside a police car staring blankly ahead, his mind racing with everything that has led to this moment. Just then, Frank's young son approaches the window. Their eyes meet, but instead of hatred or anger, the boy's gaze holds something else: gratitude. For the first time, Dennis told the truth, and because of that, a family was saved from losing everything. With that, the movie ends, a powerful reminder of morality, greed, and the devastating cost of the housing crisis.